All right, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5:30. Roll call. At-large Cummins.
Here.
At-large Poston.
Here.
Ward 2 Helm.
Here.
Ward 3 Johnston.
Here.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, approval of the agenda. Any additions, changes, requested suggestions to the agenda? If not, approval, motion to approve the agenda.
Motion. Second. To approve.
Motion by Poston, seconded by Johnston.
Cummins?
Yes.
Poston?
Yes.
Helm?
Yes.
Johnston?
Yes.
All right, communications. Is anybody present who would like to address the council? Now would be the time to do so. No? Okay, move on to the consent agenda. These are routine items that will be enacted by one motion without separate discussion unless a council member requests separate consideration. Approval of the council meeting minutes of June 2nd, 2025. Approval of the investment and treasurer's report of May 2025. Approval of the library minutes of May 14th, 2025. Approval of the library director's report of May 2025. Approval of the tobacco license renewals for Family Foods, Tiger Mart, Walmart, and Casey's. Approval of the downtown revitalization incentive program request for Daisy Wingert at 118 East 5th Street. Approval of the Tipton revitalization incentive program request for A&G Enterprises at 601 Cedar Street. Approval of change order number 9 for PCC pavement replacement project to triple B construction. Approval of the No One Fights Alone 5K race mapping for July 4th. Approval of the purchase of a fault locator for the electric department. Approval of the electrical easement for 1010 Cedar Street. Approval of the mural and lift rental for James Kennedy Family Aquatic Center. Approval of the purchase of a new standby generator for the fire department. Approval of the purchase of a new ambulance, and approval of the claims register, which includes claims paid under the current purchase policy. Any questions about any of those items, or any of them need to be pulled out for further discussion?
Motion.
Okay, motion to approve by Poston.
Second.
Seconded by Johnston.
Poston?
Yes.
Helm?
Yeah.
Johnston?
Yes.
Cummins?
Yes.
All right, moving on to city business. First item is discussion action concerning the application to the Grid Resilience Grant Opportunity. I think we have Owen from Shermco, Amanda with ECIA. Oh, there she is, okay. And Doug with SEH are all here. Or Owen's not on. Owen's here. Owen's here, okay. I'm like, that must be Owen. I'm like, looking at who's on, okay. Is that you, John? Was that your piece of city business?
Well, yeah, I can speak with it, or
Yeah,
can speak with it.
we both can speak to it.
Okay.
Want me to
Sure.
turn the table? Are Amanda and Doug online right now?
Yes.
Okay, Amanda can probably speak to this as well. So in summary, currently the city of Tipton, the electric department of Tipton, is currently looking at a couple different projects that revolve, where the funding is potentially being sourced from the resilience grant program that's currently being offered. The Grid Resiliency program has recently opened up its window for applications, and in essence, there are a couple different projects that Tipton is looking at applying for those grid resiliency funds. The first project that the city has been discussing is placement of some of the existing overhead line to an underground construction. This particular area of town has seen significant damage to the overhead lines from recent storms that have come through the territory. each time requiring significant reconstruction efforts in order to restore power to that area of town. So part of the project would involve replacing the existing overhead structures, moving those power lines underground, installing new sectionalizing cabinets and transformers and feeds to customers' houses to try and mitigate any kind of future tree damage and storm damage to those areas. Along those same lines, another item that the city has been looking at for the grid resiliency is automation of generator number 1. Currently, of the 5 generators, 3 of the generators are considered automated. Basically, they're a push button start and stop. And everything is, well, as I said earlier, automated. They come online by themselves, load up, and they take care of their own cooling system, and they take care of their own fueling. Generator number 1 is the largest generator in the old 2400 volt portion of the plant, and it currently requires significant manual input in order to run that generator. There are significant challenges with the existing cooling system on that generator. To run that generator as it is right now requires starting up a additional diesel motor just to power the radiator system. So in order to run the big generator, you have to start the little motor just to power the cooling system. Otherwise, it'll only run for a couple minutes before it overheats. On that note, the cooling system on that generator is approaching 50 years old. It was 20 some years old when the city put it in 1990, and the last 30 some odd years haven't really improved it. So part of this project is looking at the overall condition and health of that generator and seeing what it would take to automate it. Now, this generator has gone through a fairly significant service in the last few years. That was done, I believe, last in 2016 to 2018, somewhere in that time frame. I don't have the exact year, but it's been relatively recently. It was just before COVID. So the generator is in working order. However, as I said, there's some questions regarding the cooling on it. Currently, the day tanks on it have to be manually filled. They don't automatically fill by themselves, so it'll only run for a certain amount of time before somebody has to manually refill the fuel tanks for it. Currently, it's a very manual process for starting the generator and getting it to build voltage, getting it up to speed, putting it online, synchronizing with the grid to put it online. That's all done by hand. The idea would be to make it so that this generator can essentially be a one button push where all of those things are done automatically. Now, as part of this proposal, we have partnered with SEH. Doug, I believe, is on the phone from SEH. So they are going to be, the proposal that we have put forward to the city is that SEH will take on some of the responsibilities of looking at the generator as a subcontractor to Sherco. So we'll be working hand in hand with each other potentially to review all of the items that need to be looked at in order to move forward with potentially automating that generator. So Amanda, so I know you were involved in some of the grid resiliency applications, and part of the grid resiliency application process is we need to have an idea of what this whole project is going to cost. So the proposal that's been put forward to you is basically an engineering proposal to review the overall scopes of these projects and come up with the material estimates for them and the labor estimates for them. It is not a proposal to come up with final bid-worthy documents that you could potentially hand out to a contractor to finish the project, so to speak. So it's just a review of what it's going to ultimately cost in order to finalize the engineering and actually go out for bid and have it done. So, Amanda, do you want to join in?
Yeah, so, yep, I'm Amanda DuPont. I'm with ECIA, and with the Iowa Grid Resiliency Fund, I worked with Macokota Municipal Electric Utility last year, 2 years ago, to help them get their grid grant. And so just reached out to our partner communities to see if anybody would be interested in applying. So met with Brian a few times, been communicating with him regarding this. And yes, the grant is finally out and it's due August 15th. I don't really see any changes from last year or from 2 years ago when it was open. But one of the biggest things is we need a pretty decent budget in which, in order to get that, we need that from the engineer. So I worked with Brian to help procure an engineer because engineering costs are eligible costs with this grant. Where like CDGB grants for water sewer projects, those projects are usually so high that the CDGB money doesn't even touch engineering costs. Where this grant, it will cover engineering costs, and you can apply for up to $2 million. I will say, per the webinar, there's 5.6 million available this time around. So not as much as there was last time. So it'll be a little bit more competitive this time around. So we did procure the engineer and just kind of looking at what the next steps were. I think in talking to Brian, he's kind of wondering, do we want to split the project up and just apply for, or just move forward with one of the pieces, or do we want to go with both pieces?
So I have a question, just so I'm clear. These two documents or estimates that are included in the council packet, which appear to be engineering costs, those are reimbursable by the grant if we were awarded the grant?
If awarded.
Okay.
So, and I believe what was included with the council was a estimate for part A and then an estimate for part A and B. Part A being the underground construction and part B being underground construction and the generator portion.
Right. Right. Okay. And if we are not awarded the grant, there's CIP budget money to pay these, or where do these?
I would say if we're not awarded the grant, then this wouldn't be happening. I mean,
But we're gonna still have those costs.
Yeah.
So those
That's what I'm
costs would
asking.
be
Yes.
in the engineering funds in the electric department.
Yes.
It wouldn't be CIP.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
we're just really unsure on what it would really cost or push button on this, so this is why we're looking at it now. At least this way we can say, yeah, we've looked at it, it's more than we want to spend. Or maybe it's not as much as we think it's gonna be.
Yeah, I
will
was
say
just more.
The big question seems to be the cooling system on the radiator, in regards to the radiator. Which at some point in the future will need to be looked at. But again, that's a council decision as to when that happens. But right now, I will just say right now, the radiator on the generator is a late 1980s Ford diesel motor that sits outside. If the council, I'm not sure if the council has looked at it recently or not. But
Transmission's been rebuilt on that a couple times. The engine itself has been overhauled once.
it's literally a V8 hooked to a transmission that operates in reverse that powers the fan inside the radiator on it.
And now that we get dispatched more in the winter than the summer, Diesels in the winter don't.
Diesels in the winter that sit outside
Yeah. 'Cause it's
and aren't sheltered, don't like to start.
I will say too, one thing that they've mentioned in the policies and procedures handbook put out by IEDA is that I know, like, in looking at the project to split it up, the part A would be undergrounding of the wires, and that while that is an eligible cost, they do specifically say that it might not be as competitive when we're looking at some of the other projects. So just to kind of keep that in mind, if we just went with that, it might not be as competitive of a total project.
Anybody have any additional questions while we have everybody present? Or any direction?
I guess I can add the conversion from overhead to underground would be continuing on the equipment we put over on Meridian's corner, Meridian 4th. We put a cabinet there, or possibly this piece ever going that way. So that cabinet would be used for that, and it'd be all the way down to East Street over to 7th, and basically co-op. Just give you an idea of the scope of the work for it.
I guess what are we looking for? Just direction of moving now?
I suppose a motion to proceed with the,
Either part A or part A and B.
yeah, the first bid or the second, or both, yeah. It sounds like, though, from Amanda's comment that
Need to do both.
we have a better option of being awarded if we do both. Amanda, did I understand that correctly?
It
Will be
is
more-
a more competitive project, correct?
And just to reiterate something Amanda already said, the window for this grant period is open right now, and it closes August 14th. We've been in discussion with regards to this since fall of last year, I believe. And one of the items that came up when we were looking at the overall timeline of this is that we're almost looking at approximately a month and a half to 2 months worth of time for the engineering work. So I don't want to say we're already a little bit behind the 8 ball.
You need
but-
a yes or no now.
Well, that was my next question, is do we have time at this point to put an application together? Yeah.
With the proposed schedule that was.
And I think it just opened last Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge window to begin with.
My personal feeling is if we can get more underground, the better off we are. I mean,
Yeah, because I
Seems
know
like
the
we've
time
been-
spent last May, I would tend to agree
Well,
with that.
Even back to the ratio, I mean, this is the
Yeah.
same area that's been hit. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, that there's no real good solution to refeed other homes that are out the entire time.
I guess I make a motion to proceed with both A and B.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Poston, seconded by Johnston.
Helm,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins.
Yes.
Poston.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 2 is resolution number 061625A, is the resolution to authorize a transfer of funds.
We have 2 funds that are currently in a deficit. So before the end of the fiscal year, we like to try to get those cleaned up. The first one is because of a backfill amount. When we do our budget, it's set on a percentage amount and it has come in less than that. So we are short that 7,500. And the second is airport operating. So that airport is not a revenue generating fund. So their expenses, they do have some get funds back for with the FAA grant, but it's just a timing factor at this point. So that's a request to clear that up. before the end of the fiscal year.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Johnston,
Second?
seconded by Cummins.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins.
Yes.
Bastian,
Yes.
Helm,
Okay, next is resolution number 061625B, is the resolution authorize the transfer of funds.
This is just to close out this fund, so there's funding in there from interest, and so it's just a request to move that up to the general fund.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Johnston, seconded by Cummins.
Cummins.
Yes.
Bastian,
Yes.
Helm. Johnston,
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 061625C is the resolution setting the compensation for appointed city officers and employees for fiscal year 25-26.
It is an audit requirement to do this by resolution. These are the wages that were set in the budget when we talked last February, March, so that's what this is.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Bastian, seconded by Johnston.
Bastian,
Yes.
Helm. Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 061625D. This is resolution fixing a date for a public hearing on a proposal to enter into an electric revenue bond loan agreement and to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $2,125,000.
This resolution would set the public hearing date for your next meeting on July 7th for the solar project.
Motion?
Are we, are we where we need to be?
Excuse me?
Are we where we need to be on that? Like, as the water and all that? Are we?
Right.
No is the short answer.
Yeah.
Huh?
I forgot about that. Yeah,
The runoff, basically?
right.
So are we getting the cart before the horse again?
Well, not for sure how to answer that.
Well,
So there,
I just don't want to go
So there's a-
backwards.
few more steps really before the actual project can get started. I mean, I don't think we do not have a wastewater plan, right? Or a stormwater runoff plan.
Stormwater runoff, but I talked to a contractor, Randy Shoemaker, he's supposed to be having one put together for stormwater runoff.
So that needs to be
So we don't
reviewed.
have any problems with our wastewater. My understanding. It started with me, most everybody's aware. That hillside, probably 70% of that flows down through what I call the wastewater village. The margins down there are very narrow with the finished floor barely above flood stage, and then with $100,000 blowers barely above that. Not to mention a lift station wall that's right there at that same level, the plant headworks. We're talking about stuff that if we added a lot of stormwater flow, we could cause ourselves a lot of issues. I think some people might tell you it's not gonna run off more water, but common sense tells you like if you build a subdivision full of roofs and parking lots, cement, you get more runoff. That's just how it works. I think there's a simple answer. I think we could manipulate that swale at the bottom of the hill, maybe turn a little more flow to the east, maybe drop a culvert in, and we could actually make it maybe better than it is currently, even after solar. So I don't think it's gonna break the bank or anything like that. Randy is super receptive to meeting Delman and talking about that. So I think we should give that some good consideration going forward.
Okay.
I know it's not in the original plan. I know it could cost more money, but I think we could prove to really regret it if we don't. So, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think Terry was asked to review that and I think put some of the additional zoning pieces together after the fact, because there's gonna need to be some zoning changes with that property in order to technically allow it to be there based on our ordinance language. So there's a couple steps that are going to have to be done before that can actually get started, but I don't know that there's any additional hiccups. Anybody
Okay.
else knows?
No.
I don't think that's just where we are.
Just want to make sure we got everything
Mhm.
where we need to be, but
I
with
think it's
that,
getting there.
with that being said, if we're comfortable with moving forward, then I'll make a motion to approve.
Yeah, Abby made the motion. Are you
Oh,
still okay
sorry,
with
Abby.
the actual motion?
No,
Okay,
you're good.
all right, so
No, I'm glad.
you want to second the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, all right. So motion by Cummins, seconded by Poston.
Helm,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Poschin,
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 061625E is a resolution accepting a bid for the South Spruce Street Improvement Project 2025. I know, I cannot play that.
Change that.
I know. North Plum was so much easier.
I think Rick's on the line.
Oh, is Rick? Yeah, okay. Hi, Rick, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Anything you'd like to say about this
No,
project?
well, yes. The bids came in extremely well. We had a lot of bidders. I think we had 9 total, and then this was well under the engineer's estimate. And I did follow up on one reference, and it was a very positive reference. So based on that recommendation letter that I sent you, yeah, we recommend moving forward with that bid.
Do we have experience with this? I mean, from the city perspective, do we have experience with this bidder? Do you know?
I don't, we don't at Garden Associates, and I don't think the city's worked with them before. So what Steve mentioned at the bid opening was you have not, or he hasn't worked with them before. They are local, they are just up the road at,
Iowa Excavating and Concrete in Dyersville.
Cascade, yeah, they're in Cascade, Iowa. I have a blank on that name.
Are they the ones that
Cascade,
did
Iowa.
9th Street, or that block of 9th Street on the detour?
I don't know, I'm asking you. Like,
I'm asking Rick. I don't.
oh, you're asking Rick, go.
Rick wasn't here either, so.
Not that yeah, I don't know that. I don't
Experience
know.
with this company, or do we have a,
I think they're the contractor that did part of phase 1, the radiuses, 9th Street going west, ended up putting a water main in there, all that.
Oh.
I think that's that contractor. I don't know.
I think so too.
They did really good. They were really good.
I was just curious more than anything, if we had a history with this contractor. Any of you have any questions for Rick about them?
Nope.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Poston, seconded by Cummins.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Poschin,
Yes.
Helm,
Okay. A resolution number 061625F is the resolution scheduling a public hearing on sale of city-owned real estate. You want me to, or you want to take it?
We had originally awarded 801 Locust to a different individual, and they have withdrawn their bid. So this is part of the process to put that back out there. We have to do a public hearing for it. So we're setting the public hearing date for July 7th to award to the next individual, which would be Nissen, at the price that the first award was given. So that's what this is for.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Poston, seconded by Cummins.
Cummins,
Yes.
Poschin,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Okay, discussion and possible action concerning a first ward council seat.
So council Brian, I think sent this out, and if you read it, so your option is to request letters of interest for the position. So it could be set where we could put a notice in the paper to be published on July 2nd to have those letters sent in. They would need to be in by July 16th at noon. And then we would bring those letters to your next meeting on July 21st, where you could review and then make a suggestion from there. It has to be done by August 1st. So that would be your last meeting to be able to do that at. So this is requesting that we go through that process and put publication in the paper for the July 2nd meeting.
I think that's a good way to do it.
I think the way too, I will say, just as we're getting smaller and thinner, I will be out of the country on July 21st.
Okay.
So that would make sure that the other three would have to be here. Just like keep that in mind. Like I'm all on board with it. Just I'm gonna let you know right now, I'm gonna be gone, and I do not plan on zooming in.
Come on. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I will be here the next week after the month.
Okay.
I think I'll be.
No. Okay, then we'll go
Sounds good.
through that process.
Okay, so do we need a motion?
Motion.
Yeah, sure, for direction.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Poston, seconded by Cummins.
Postian,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins.
Yes.
All right, discussion and possible action concerning green space project and authority to proceed with the purchase and construction activities related to the project components and related budget.
What do you want to know?
You want to just give an update, or council has any questions about?
I do have a
Synopsis.
question as far as the high school class, because it is that there's a vacancy for a teacher in that class. So what does that mean?
Do you have a comment on that, Terry?
I don't see that as being a huge piece of the whole project, really. It's a small building with erected in-house and commercial.
But I think there could still be some discussions with the school, depending on who, and I think that,
Planning on trying to get somebody to fill the position, right?
Right, correct.
yeah. But even if not, I think there may be some other local entities or maybe even another school district that's relatively close that might be interested in doing the project.
I don't know what you as a council have been informed of, a drawing or anything? Or,
Yeah. Well, we saw it all when we approved the project.
yeah, okay, it's.
Yeah.
It's a little, there's a couple of things that have changed a little bit, placement of cables and size and that kind of thing. Nothing big though. Concrete's changed a little bit. We're not gonna extend that pad the full width to underneath that tree. There's no need to do that, I don't think. We just need a little more space for the trailer and the truck combination to back in there.
So it's still gonna get bigger. It's just,
Yeah.
because that was the concern with the food trucks, is it wasn't big enough.
Yeah, along the sidewalk on the Cedar Street side, we'll probably have some kind of a railing there to keep traffic off Cedar Street sidewalk from cutting across that. They'll have to come around the corner. The restroom initially was placed a little closer to the food vendors. We'll move that halfway up the lot, away from the food vendor. So, is that the last drawing you saw?
No, I don't think so. No.
I don't know what, Linda and I have been working on this together a little bit, and I don't know what Linda provided.
No, the last drawing would have been the one that Brian provided.
Okay. It's very similar. It's just placement's a little different. So, actually, Next Tuesday, we meet again. Next Tuesday, okay.
Next week,
We're meeting again, so we'll finalize some plans probably. I think the concrete's gonna be fairly close to what we estimated, but the cost of concrete has not been in our favor, that's for sure. So,
So are we still on track with the size of the restroom and heating the restroom and,
yes.
okay.
I think we're just getting numbers together. I know, I think Brad is getting numbers together for security cameras and so forth. I think, you're getting stuff ready for your electrical, for lighting and, so forth. So, and I know Steve's, we've got some time here, because I think, Steve, you said you, won't be able to touch it for about a month yet, because you've got water main bushings and all that good stuff.
we're flushing water mains right now, it'll take at least another 2 weeks, maybe longer, and then we go to street patching with our street patch machine. That typically takes about 3 weeks. So we're out there a little ways. We're talking sometime August. So,
It ain't gonna take long to frame up that, that structure.
Terry, did you mention asking Mike Wade about?
Yeah, I did, at the last meeting, we all discussed, asking Mike Wade if he'd still be interested in doing it.
Just individually
On a
himself?
contract basis or something, and he's checking with his Ipers. And hasn't gotten back to me yet.
So this proposed budget or cost sheet that's in the council packet is estimates, obviously.
Yeah,
it's pretty close, I think.
I think Linda did get some estimates back on umbrellas and tables, so that he knew what through.
Yeah, those are real numbers.
Yes. I think it's gonna be right there in the ballpark.
We did, as most of you know probably, we did lose our employee, public works. So we're rehiring and we do have a candidate that we'd like to extend, well, I verbally given him a nod, but we don't have the paperwork done on that yet. And that's, when you bring a new person in, it takes a little while to get that person involved fully, so. But I think this guy will work in fine.
I don't know how you gauge it, but of course, the other thing that you have to consider is the cost of maintenance for the rest of the time. I mean, that's not a number that you have in here, so, but it's
Maintenance of the building or the whole park?
just the area, all of it. I mean, that's not something that
That's,
we have, and I realize that we can't necessarily have that number, but I mean, that is something we still have to think about.
that's something that we've been discussing at the meetings also, about making it pretty much maintenance free. We don't wanna have to shovel it during the winter. We don't, we don't wanna have to worry about the building, and so we're gonna go with probably vinyl siding, so just maintenance free
Okay.
stuff.
But you do still have the interior cleaning and the stocking and that kind of stuff. Did you guys discuss what you thought that number would be? By chance? I would have no idea what to even get.
Or who's doing it?
I think the big thing is just gonna be the cleaning, because with the inside of that building, it has to be non-absorbent anyways, number one. So, if you get, what goes on in these bathrooms, it's gonna be easy to clean. If you gotta go in there, you can just spray it out, because you're gonna have maybe an FRP board on the inside that's gonna be moisture resistant. When you just spray it out real quick, and some toilet cleaning and, and supplies, how about that?
Right.
So, yeah. I don't think it's gonna be that expensive to be truthful.
Okay.
Which department's responsible for this?
That was my next question.
That's mine
I
too.
wondered that too.
That's
yeah.
where.
What department's responsible? I think the Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
Well, he's not here, so that makes sense.
It's the Parks and Rec.
It's a very valid
It's a
question.
pocket park, right?
Well, we briefly talked about it once before on who was
Yeah.
gonna
It is.
clean it,
It's
and I
very
don't
valid.
think that actually ever got answered, but.
I heard Brad said he would. No, that's a good question.
It's a very good question.
Put your name in the hat.
Probably TBD, but
I know that
they can argue that at a department head meeting.
the gas and electric already do snow removal on the sidewalk going past there, so we don't have an issue getting the sidewalk to the bathroom and that sort of thing, so we can handle that part of it, as far as maintaining it during the winter.
So you will clean it.
That's what I
Did not say that.
Oh, I misheard you.
Well, there are some Department of Public Health regulations that are gonna have to be obtained in order to clean that. So, I mean, whoever cleans that is gonna have to be
We do.
OSHA regulated, vaccinated in order to do that.
We do intend to not do any trimming around there. We want to pour concrete up to the grass so that it's just a mower. That can go. We're not gonna go around those buildings and trim what the trim. So that should make it easier. But the maintenance of the building and cleaning is up in the air for Parks and Rec. Just saying.
Other duties as assigned.
There you go. Is there a motion to approve this budget to move forward, or this proposed fee schedule cost sheet?
Motion to approve.
Is there a number that when we start getting concrete numbers in and it becomes extremely large, or if it becomes extremely large, that we can say,
Cap it somewhere.
yeah. Is that
Yeah,
is that a thing?
Yeah, I think it's a thing. I think the only thing, what really would affect it would be the grants and, potentially having to send that money back.
Mhm.
But that's probably more of a Melissa question.
You can make that number whatever you want, or we could bring every invoice to you for official, approval. Our purchase policy allows us to purchase up to a certain amount, but if you want, invoices brought as they occur in, and we still would if it goes above the purchase policy, but $1,000 one, we wouldn't necessarily,
Right.
you would see it in the claims, just
Right.
not necessarily wait for approval. So it can be formatted however you prefer. They could give you updates because they are meeting, they could pass along updates to the council too after the meetings to kind of keep everyone outside of our actual meetings, keep you updated on what's happening or the progress.
I think more than anything, it would just be nice to know if we're starting to look at numbers, bigger numbers than what we anticipate, because let's say every single number grows by a little bit, then it becomes a lot of it. So
how about if any of the numbers are over what's in here, we at least need to, do you want us to come back for official approval? Do you want us just to make you aware that we're still in line in this total budget? Some may be under, and then if some balance and are over.
Well, and I think there's these estimates, from these different businesses, but nothing has been signed with them. So if those estimates, if the full quote comes back, much higher than what the estimates they originally gave Terry, we can, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, I've heard directions as far as community wise in favor and not in favor. I feel like I've heard a little more that have been in favor, but to be honest, it hasn't been a whole big number either direction.
Yeah.
You're talking like maybe 5 people I think have commented that they like the idea, and 2, I know it was 2 that did not. But then I also sit there and think about the weekend we just had. Friday night was a busy night. It was a nice night. The stores were open, and that would have been a really good opportunity to
Utilize
have
that
that,
space.
yep, have that open. And then you've got 4th of July. And I mean, ideally, we want to welcome people downtown and to shop, and we want our downtown to look nice. And I feel like that's a good step. So I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Luke, seconded by Cummins.
Helm,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Postian,
Yes.
Okay, that concludes city business. So next on the agenda is just reports from department heads. Anybody have any?
Well, just like Steve said, he's a short guy. I also lost a guy just a few weeks back. Darren and I have a few guys that we interviewed and we actually liked. We'll be talking to Melissa and Brian this next week. I think we know who we want to extend it out to, but we're going to keep it easy overview. Other than that, no.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. Council? Do we have anything council to report? The only thing I was going to mention is 4th of July parade.
I'll be working the burgers, the pork burgers.
Okay.
So I'll wave at you all as you drive by. I'll be like,
Just need to coordinate transportation if there's more than 4 people riding.
I will not be writing.
You will not be riding. Okay. All right, then I think we're good. I told Linda that I would take care of the vehicle for myself and the council, which will probably be my Jeep, pending rain, but I needed to make sure we could get everyone in there because it's cozy in the back seat. All right. Any other committee reports?
you will be throwing candy, correct?
I will be throwing candy.
Okay.
I will be
Do you want me to tell
Rolling
you
candy.
where I'll be standing? So
rolling candy.
Right.
I think throwing is against the rules.
Right.
It's, although I forgot the rules most of the time last time. Melissa, do you have anything else? No? Okay. All right. There's nobody has anything else, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Postian, seconded by Cummins.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Postian,
Yes.
Helm.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.